We'll give everybody just a couple more minutes to get up here and get situated. So much good stuff in this morning's agent leadership meeting. I'm sure people are still sorting through the links, registering for EXPCon, joining the seniors network on Workplace, looking up the Cardone stuff, making sure we're good. I see David has joined us. Good morning. Happy Friday, David. Test, test. David, do you have my audio? We don't have yours yet. No problem. If you can hear me, just open up your audio when you get it. We'll do a quick audio check, and then we'll turn the session over to you. If you're having technical difficulties, we'll give you a minute to get it situated. Probably pop out of the auditorium, pop back in, or refresh your voice server down in the bottom left. Just click on that connection and, go to the top right, the system's preferences, and hit refresh. Am I off? Okay. Here. Stuck in your seat. That's all right, Sonia. You might have to click stand up or maybe click go to stage, and it should just teleport you to the stage. We'll do a quick audio check, Sonia. Make sure we've got your audio while you're doing that.
Thanks for the tip.
Perfect. Are you up here? Good morning. Happy Friday. We got you.
Thank you. Happy Friday.
Well, we appreciate you being here. Congratulations on the Icon Award achievement. David, are you with us? And I believe we're just waiting on Dan and Erica. David is having some tech issues. That's all right. We'll give him a couple of minutes to get situated here, everybody. Want to welcome our Icon agents to our iConversations. We have Matt with us. We have Sonia with us. I believe we're waiting on Erica and Dan. I don't want to ignore you, Yvette. I'm not sure if you were just hanging out, sitting up here, or if you were scheduled to be on iConversations but aren't quite on the slide. So you're welcome to let us know. But since we have a couple hundred of our closest friends still here hanging out, what I'll do is go ahead and kick off while we get David's tech issues situated here. And if Erica or Dan are here or arrive, you're welcome to just jump in and say good morning. So what I'll do is ask for our Icon agents to do a quick introduction and tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and maybe a brief history about your business. So I'll start over here with Matt, if you wouldn't mind. Matt, give us a quick welcome and check-in this morning.
Thanks for having me. I'm Matt Durbin. I am from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I run a team out of the Pittsburgh area. We'll probably be pushing about 200 plus transactions this year, and about 50 million in volume.
That's awesome. How big is your team?
We are at 13 agents right now.
Very cool. How long have you been building this business?
Started our team in the Pittsburgh area about 4 years ago. Sold real estate in South Florida for around 8 years, and then moved back to the Pennsylvania market, Pittsburgh market about 8 years ago now, and then started kind of building the team about 4 years ago.
Amazing, man. Congratulations. How many times have you achieved the Icon Award here at EXP?
I just hit 2, my second time.
Very cool. Congratulations. Awesome achievement. Awesome accomplishment. Excited to have you share with the folks here this morning. All right. Same question, Sonia. Give us a little background on yourself and your business.
Hi. Thanks for having me. Sonia Johnson. I am north of Boston. I am a sole agent. My volume last year, I believe, was around 21 million, which was about 41 sides. I've been in the business for 21 years, with EXP for just over 2 and Icon for two years.
Wow. Congratulations. Very cool. So 40 plus sides as a solo agent. That's fantastic. Do you work with any sort of support staff, a transaction manager, assistant, or virtual assistant, or anything like that?
No, that's something I need to work on.
I love it. That's amazing. That's phenomenal production, solo. So everybody, you've got a great kind of group here. And it looks like we've got David back one more time. We'll do a quick check-in. David.
Check. Can you hear me? I'm so sorry.
Oh, yeah. We've got your audio loud and clear. Happy Friday, man.
Happy Friday, dude. I was, I think we got Dustin's coming up here, or Dan, excuse me, is coming up here as well. I think he's having some trouble, but I'm pumped for today and got to hear a little bit of the intro. So.
All right. Well, we appreciate you being here. As the moderator, I will turn it over to you, let you take it from here, and appreciate you doing this. And everybody have a happy Friday. Enjoy iConversations.
Awesome. So, hey guys, so thanks so much for joining today. My name is David Brook, and I run a team of real estate agents here out of Hartford County, Connecticut. We are about 38 agents. We did about 132 million last year, 507 sides, and looking somewhere between 700 and 800 sales this year. And I'm just pumped to talk to Sonia and Erica and Dan and Matt today. One of the things I wanted to chat about was something that has everything to do with the inventory that is just so low right now. And I wanted to ask a few of you, because you're coming from around the country, Massachusetts, Arizona, Florida, and Pennsylvania, how you're dealing with buyers who are looking for access to off-market properties right now. So many times the buyers are coming to us and they're saying, hey, listen, we're having a hard time finding something that's on the market right now. Is there something that you have that might be coming to the market? How does your state handle that? And how do you handle that? So Sonia, you're pretty close to me. I'm in Connecticut, you're in Massachusetts. Tell me up in your area, how do you handle that?
Hi. So thanks. I actually have been calling people that I've done CMAs for over the past few years, just because I'm not as busy as I have been. The inventory is pretty low, but that's probably the extent of what I'm doing, other than offering clients, if they know a neighborhood that they're interested in, potentially mailing those neighborhoods with their valid interest.
Yeah, and does your state allow for the operation of off-market transactions, brokered still by an agent?
That's a good question. I'm not 100% clear on that, to be honest.
No worries. I know here in Connecticut, we can do things like we can do withholds from MLS, et cetera. So sometimes that's popular. Erica, if you don't mind, I'm going to jump over to you to the other side of the country. How do you handle that? And if Erica's not here, we'll go over to Matt. Matt in Pennsylvania.
So we've been having a lot of success. I don't want to say a lot of success, but been having success. We still do a lot of outbound prospecting for expireds. So one of the value propositions that we have for the buyers in our market is access to off-market properties, because that's obviously what everybody wants right now. So we'll go back through, if we know somebody that we're working with on the buy side is wanting to be in a particular school district subdivision, we'll go back through the last 2-3 years expired data and send them a list of everything that had expired that didn't sell. And we've had success calling those owners up and saying, hey, you couldn't get your price 2 years ago, but the market's improved by 25%. What if I had a buyer that was willing to buy your house right now? We put multiple deals together off market in that manner this year, surprisingly, but it's worked out quite well. And it gives us a little bit of a value proposition that we wouldn't necessarily have, because right now buyers can't find anything online. So if you have something that they can't see, then you provide value.
That's, I'm going to touch on that for just a minute here, because the problem that I think most real estate agents face is we live in a world where the most important and most valuable thing out there is information. And when we give up that information that we have as the real estate professionals, and we give that over to another set of parties like realty portals, et cetera, it diminishes our value. Wherein if we retain the value of having the information, like the off-market properties, that is extremely valuable to the buyers. They want to hear about that. That's also valuable to the sellers, because the sellers can also realize, maybe I could possibly, instead of being apprehensive about putting my house on the market right now, maybe my real estate agent actually has another house that I could go to, and we're kind of playing musical houses at some point. But it's a great attraction to get more buyers and sellers into our pipeline than we ever have had before. I think that this low inventory market actually provides opportunity. Let me ask a question over to Dan. Dan, you're here. I think you're here via mobile. How are you handling it in Florida?
About the same way. Thank you very much for is there an echo on your side? 1 second. So real quick on our market, I mean, we're a little bit more on the dominant side as far as listings. So we do get exactly what you're talking about. You know, we get a lot of people coming to us. They know we market to a specific area of East Orlando, and by doing so, we get a lot of listings. With those listings, then people know that we've got our finger on the pulse, so they tend to come to us, just like you're talking about. You know, what do we have coming up? What's coming up next, and so forth. One of the ones we're targeting right now, which is becoming pretty big in our market, has been these iBuyer style platforms such as Zillow and OfferPad and so forth, that just letting people know. I mean, homes honestly are selling because we have so many listings. They're doing 20 to 50 grand over list price. So these people that are saying, hey, I got a good deal off of one of these iBuyer platforms, maybe you're leaving a lot of money on the table. Maybe you should reach out to us. We just know that obviously in this market, listings is key. As buyers, we're bottlenecked up with buyers. We have more buyers than we can possibly find houses for. And of course, every house we put an offer in on, we're multiple offers, and it's going way above list price at the same time. That's kind of like our key, is what we're just trying to stay ahead of that curve and keep listing as many properties as we can. And at the same time, we market to those our clients, the ones that are interested in wanting to sell. We're saying, hey, you know what? We've got buyers that are coming in. If we can find you the right home to move to, would you be interested? And just kind of stacking them up in that direction, which has been working out for us as well. I'm not sure how long that'll last exactly, but so far it's working out for us.
That's awesome to hear. That is awesome to hear that that's happening in Florida. I know for us in Connecticut, we have a lot of people who move down towards where you guys are. It just seems to be that natural flow that happens. One of the things that's been successful, I think, for us, and comment, and to me, if this is the case, there are sellers who exist in the marketplace who would sell if ... I would sell if, and it's not, the price is not what's moving them. Because guys, if price was the one that was moving them, then we just see the market flooded with every seller that's out there, but it's not, because they feel like it's relative. My understanding, and I want you to talk to this, is that they're looking for an opportunity to be able to find another space. And so what some of the things that we've been able to do is say, hey, if you're interested or could be interested, we're not looking to sign a listing agreement with you, but would you raise your hand? And that's been extremely popular. Have either of you three, Sonia or Dan or Matt, have you experienced any opportunities that show up when you're broadcasting, you know, this out to your databases? Are you seeing anyone come back and ask and say, yeah, you know what, keep me on a list? Have you seen that? Anyone can chime in.
I'll chime in and say that I don't have a database, but I do talk to people a lot, and the biggest challenge for us is finding inventory. We have an aging population, and there's no housing for them. So that's the biggest challenge that we have in our area.
Yeah, I second that as well. We are our biggest problem, honestly, and the prices just keep getting higher and higher. Many of the, the lower the price point, the more buyers you have, and then of course those price points sell out the most, easiest, and of course we've got a huge investor market here in the Central Florida area with the attractions are all back up and running. As most of you know, Florida really hasn't been a lockdown style state, so a lot of flocking is coming this direction right now. We, my wife and I, just did a little staycation at a hotel locally for our anniversary, which was just last week, and the hotel was absolutely slam packed with people from all over the country. So it's coming back in full swing from what we're seeing. As far as like the database, I do see a lot of agents in my marketplace doing that type of attraction, in general, to see, putting the feelers out there, and I think it's a fantastic way. We run our system a little differently, where we just kind of focus in on an area, our zone, so to speak, and we just kind of keep catering to our database in that way. We do a lot of community involved style projects, and just trying to keep our finger on the pulse. And people do reach out to us and they say, hey, you know what, we're thinking about. I think you said it correct. People want a space, is what we're seeing. Most people are saying, if I'm going to go back through something, like I want more yard, I want a pool this time. Pool homes in our market have just been flying off the shelf the same way.
Let me ask you, in Florida as well, are there any sort of segments where there isn't a shortage of inventory? Because as I talk with brokers and agents across the country, some have said, listen, if you're in that as you described it, Dan, lower end price point. You've got buyers from every segment. You've got the first-time home buyer, you've got the investor, right? You've got someone who's just transitioning from one house to another house, making a lateral move. That's very difficult. Has your luxury market been the same way, or has there been a little bit of a slow? And Sonia, please jump in, or Matt, jump in and talk a little bit about your luxury market in regards to inventory.
Our luxury market's doing pretty well. We've just closed on a 1.6, and that was a multiple offer scenario. And we had to go over list price on that one, and it appraised higher than that, almost 100K. So it's moving well. I think ideally we have so much, like you've already said it, everybody's kind of flocking ours. We get a lot of clients from the north every year. It's always been that way. Everybody's tired of the winter. They want to come down here to sunny Florida. We've got, I always joke and say we got 10 months of summer here. And so a lot of people come this direction. And, you sell a house up in New York, you might have a modest house up there, but with property taxes and so forth, your bang for your buck goes a lot further down here. So you can get $1 million home and it'd be literally 3 times the size of your house up in New York or New Jersey is what we see a lot of. And they buy these houses, cash. So far it's moving well. I haven't seen any kind of slowdown. It's just quicker in that $300,000 and $400,000 price point, if you can even find something. Anything in that price range, if it's in a decent neighborhood, we'll say it flies off the shelf. And honestly, they're probably like 20 offers on the first day on the market.
I would say if we could just kind of wrap up this section, because I've got 2 more, important segments for you guys to talk through. The realtors that control more of the inventory by either creating that inventory through knowing many sellers who would sell, those are the ones who have not only a pulse on the market, but also can command the market in a big way. So I think, for agents, whether experienced or not, listening today, that is a massive opportunity that you can jump on by really getting a pulse, by seeing who could possibly be interested in selling. And that might not be just for the best price. It might be, hey, just give me 4 months to find a new place, or give me 6 months, or give me a lease back agreement or something like that. So I want to shift. I want to talk a little bit more about a different topic. If we flopped over to the buyer side, and some of you run teams, because doing some research on you guys before we jumped out here on the panel, some of you are single agents. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing or what your team is doing on the buy side in order to win some of these multiple offers. We've heard of obviously everything from the buyer love letter to the seller, which is frowned upon in some areas and accepted in others. We've heard of different types of deposit scenarios, people buying pizza and moving trucks for other people. What's effective in your market? Matt, can I just start with you, and we'll kind of work from you to Sonia to Dan.
Yeah, I think the most important thing, the first thing that you need to do is have a conversation with the listing agent and find out what is important to the seller. Like, you'd be shocked how many offers that we get where we've never spoken to the buyer's agent. They didn't ask what was important to the seller. Is it flexibility with close date because they have another purchase to make? Is it they're worried about inspections? Is it they're what's most important to them? They're old school and they want to see a bigger escrow deposit. Like, it's impossible to structure an offer to win a bid without having some kind of idea what is important to the seller. So if you can find that out first, it'll help you structure your offer so that it's more appealing to the listing side, instead of just going in blind and just trying to make a deal work when you don't even know what is necessarily important to every seller.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, you obviously have to know what somebody wants before you can present it, right? Like, that would be kind of weird if like your waiter just kind of like walked up and plopped something on your plate. You're like, I didn't want that, right? Like, but agents do that every single day, right? They've got an idea. Okay, here's the pricing, and then they can obviously submit a bid that's reflective of that. But if your seller truly wants a lease back for a certain period of time, or if your seller is just like, hey, I don't care, I'm not putting another dollar into this property, maybe they want it as is or something else. So, but let's talk, Dan, Sonia, speak to me. What's happening in Massachusetts? How are you winning bids?
I would say that probably having really good relationships with most of the local agents has, outside of the love letters, won my buyers the deal, or having pre-approvals versus pre-qualifications has also helped.
Yeah, for sure. I think what you're describing is security on the seller side. Most sellers in this market are like, hey, I don't want to go back to market because I don't want to do this again where I get 20 or 40 people through my house in a weekend. And then also, I don't want to come back to market because what houses are coming back, right? And so I think agents are looking at the other side of the transaction and saying, is this agent going to get it across the finish line? And having a great reputation, like Sonia, you're saying, is massively helpful. And so it's probably an encouragement both to new agents out there. It's like, do right and keep those deals together, you know, and obviously fully represent your clients. But those agents with those solid reputations of getting the deals done are the ones who are getting it through, and also with pre-qualification. So, Dan, tell me a little bit of how are you guys getting stuff done in Florida?
That's what Sonia just said as well, and Matt too. You know, those are definitely all things. Everything works. You know what I mean? I tell everybody, don't hold back on any of them. So for us, you know, our production level, we see the same agents over and over, like many of you other icon agents. So when they see us come across, like, oh, these guys will help keep the deal together. You know, and having that relationship is definitely important to a transaction. So we always try not to burn any bridges and kill them with kindness. And just like Matt said too, as well, you know, we find out what they want. You know, unfortunately, what we're seeing right now, every time I ask that question, they're just like, yeah, close early, close late, whatever, you know, whatever. And then so it pretty much just comes down to money. One of the unique differences that we've got ourselves paired up with a local lender here. Local lenders, I think, are always going to be fantastic to have. I don't know how it works in each and other states, but in Florida, having a localized lender, someone that you can get on the phone versus a 1-800 number going through, it seems to make a big difference in general. And we've also got a lender who does everything in-house. He can pretty much start to finish in like 14 days, even on an FHA loan or a VA loan. When you have that type of, you can submit an offer with something like that in your arsenal, it definitely helps drive you to the top. And we've used it many times and have won many bids that way as well.
I think that's we should stop there and just kind of comment a little bit on that, because there are so few lenders or agents, I should say, who are actually employing the lender as part of their team. They feel like the lender actually comes into play once the deal gets done and then the contract gets sent over. Our lenders that we work with have almost this expectation that when they get a pre-approval with us, that we let them know, hey, we're bidding on 123 Main Street. Here's the listing agent's number. They give a call and the script goes something like this. Hey, this is Jim. I'm just calling on behalf of David. I've got a buyer who's interested in 123 Main Street. How many offers do you have? You've done such a good job in marketing it. And it's so funny that the listing agent feels propped up, ends up sharing so much about all of their offers. They end up sharing how many are offers, where many times the buyer's agent will call and ask, can you tell me how many are not allowed to, I don't want to say. Or, hey, can you tell me what your seller wants? Best price, no contingencies, right? Where it's very, kind of close to the chest on that, where on the lender side, they seem to open up greatly on that. And then the lender follows up with, well, how many lenders gave you a call today? And they're going to say 1, 2, right out of the 10 offers or 15 offers. Hey, can I give you my pitch here? Because obviously there's going to be 2 lenders here that look like they really want this deal done, and they're not just pumping out pre-approvals. Can we talk about my buyer? And that has been exponentially helpful. So let's just pause there for a second and talk about local lending versus having like a national lender. Sonia, in your market, is that a big thing? Is that important to have a local lender or not?
Absolutely, yes. I frown upon or even obviously I ask my buyers who their pre-approval is with if they haven't asked me for a recommendation. And if it's an 800 number or an internet-based bank, I usually encourage them to get a second opinion with a local or well-respected lender.
Okay. Yep. That's usually a great route, simply because, I tell people all the time, I'm like, hey, listen, the team that you see is not about David Brooke. It is about you, and you have to surround yourself with the very best possible. And I don't know what person is going to end up getting this loan inside of a large company, but I do know these people, it would be worth it to have a conversation with them. So how about Matt, how are you guys doing with local lending? And Dan, how are you guys doing with local lending as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing in our market, especially like when we're on the list side. If you've got 2 offers, which are very competitive, One of them's with a local lender that you know and are aware of, and you can pick up the phone and call them. And another one's with a national bank or national lender, and you have no clue who you're talking to. You're gonna feel way more safe going with the local lender option, because you know they're gonna have a good appraisal list, which is one of the issues that we've got a lot right now is appraisal issues. You know that you can pick up the phone and talk to the guy who's handling the transaction. And sometimes, that's all it takes, because bids are so competitive right now. Every little thing helps. And so when your lender, a lot of offers that we submit, especially if we know that other agent works with the lender that we work with or has used them in the past, we'll copy them on the offer that we email over and have them follow up, like you said, and tell them, hey, listen, I've been through all the income documents. I've been like, these guys are tight. They're gonna, they've got no issues. This will be a smooth transaction. That goes a long way.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, Matt. I mean, just honestly, I do not understand why more agents are not including the full team as a part of the conversation with the listing agent up front. Because when you're a listing agent and you're, sometimes you get to present it in person, given the last, year, probably not, right? You're doing it over Zoom or something like that. And you're reviewing offer after offer after offer. It kind of gets exhausting as the seller. And so what do sellers eventually do? And what do listing agents kind of default to sometimes, right? They're going to put in a spreadsheet. It's going to reduce down to a specific number. What's my net number? What's the highest number? And then they look at the top three numbers and say which lender's the best, maybe, right? But that is not the full case scenario. If you have an offer that gets presented to you, and you are 100% confident every deal I do with this agent closes, and every deal I do with this lender closes, and it might be $5 or $10 grand less, you're still able to confidently say, I spoke to the lender myself, like, these guys are fully pre-approved, subject to an appraisal, we're good. So that is something that I think is extremely important when it comes to submitting offers. How about you, Dan?
Yeah, I brought this up a little bit earlier as well, and we just had a great success with it. And of course, when we have offers that come in, as I talked about, we've got, predominantly we list a lot of properties, and when they come in with local lenders, those are going to be where we kind of lean. Then, of course, the one thing that nobody wants to hear is there's a few that slip through the cracks, and they do pretty well, and those are the ones that do no appraisal, no inspection, which we've seen a handful of those come through the line. But yeah, local lenders all day long. If you ever have a problem with your client, we always try and encourage them, because we get this too. We get a lot of veterans, and they're like, oh, I'm using Veterans United or some company that they feel is instantly connected with just veterans or Navy Federal. Any lender can do a VA loan, and we just try and say, hey, it's just worth a piece of advice. At the end of the day, my job for you is to get you into a home, and having a localized lender is definitely going to help you kind of get that way. Just speak with them. You just have it to at least submit the offer, and you can always go back and use the other lender. But most times they tend to stay with that localized lender, because the customer service is it's hard to compete against, honestly, at the end of the day, when somebody answers the phone right when you call.
Yeah, let's also talk about, because appraisals got brought up twice, and I don't know about where you are in the country and maybe some of the regulations around appraisal management companies and around appraisal companies in general. My wife and I own an appraisal management company, or excuse me, an appraisal company, not a management company, but an appraisal company. And there's all of these lists and panels that you can be a part of. And what we find is that the local lenders appear to have the strongest, most adept appraisers, whereas the national lenders that are out there appear to simply employ the appraisers that are doing these appraisals for the least amount, right? So it's all about a fee because they're doing it in such volume. So talk about that a little bit. Let's get into the appraisal. What happens if your buyer ends up choosing one of these online banks or even a local bank, and these properties are under appraising? What's the sort of pre-education that you're having with your clients on the buy side about that if you're seeing multiple offers happen? Just talk openly just about that. I know it's a little bit of a sticky subject for some, but let's go through it. Sonia, why don't we start with you, and then we'll go to Dan and Matt.
Oddly, I haven't had a lot of that happen. We are having agents coming out of Boston right now. I'm about 33 miles north of Boston, and the agents there are foregoing the appraisal. Well, even not only I guess, the financing contingency, which would actually forego the appraisal, although it could still happen, but it wouldn't matter because they X'd out the financing contingency. So I did have one come in slightly under, but again, they had crossed out the financing contingency, so it wasn't a big deal. But really strangely, I have not had any other properties not appraised. I have heard about it, but it's yet to happen to me.
Yeah, we're right there with you too. I mean, if it comes in with no appraisal, obviously we don't even talk or discuss about it. But most of our properties currently have been hitting or pretty close to it. A lot of times we're telling our agents, I run a team of 7 myself, and we tell our agents, to look at those pending properties and try and line it up, try to hold off on ordering that appraisal until one of those other properties close, or having those conversations with the pending agents and say, hey, I know you're under contract for, 500,000, is it, think you're going to hit your marker, kind of a thing. And sometimes they'll tell you, legally here that you're not supposed to be able to tell you, but they can do a wink or a cough in the background, give you a little indicator. And if, like I've got one right now, it's going to be closing on the 30th. So when it closes here in 4 or 5 days, that's going to set the pace on us hitting our number in just the same way. So that's definitely a way to go.
So smart. If you guys are in the audience, like you need to hear that. Like if you missed that, you need to hear that again. On your appraisals, look at what's pending currently. Plan that out, because appraisers cannot utilize, they can put them in their report, but the weighted part there should not be, or most lenders will reject pending properties because it's not actually fully closed yet, right? The deal could still fall apart. So a couple of things there too is market conditions, time adjustments, all of those should be considered in the appraisal. And Dan is 100% right. You got to look at that pending and maybe plan your appraisal around that. Maybe plan your mortgage commitment around it. Why? Because if you do get your bid accepted, the sellers want it to appraise, buyers want it to appraise, everyone wants to. So you may want to, in fact, delay until you can figure out, let this other property close, because that might be the way to go. Dan, how are you handling things when it comes to maybe a property under appraising, right? Are you writing that into your offer that the buyers are going to make up the difference? Like, how do you feel about that?
You hit it on the head earlier, and that is just having a pre-talk before you even get to that portion. I mean, we're having sit downs a little bit more, or at a first showing, we'll have that kind of like not a sit down, but a conversation, just like we're talking right now, and that is, this is what's happening. This is what I'm seeing on my listing. So I just want to forewarn you that, this is what we're going to be around. It's going to go multiple offer. It's going to go, we tell everyone, if it looks good to you, it looks good to everybody else. Your tastes are not ridiculous. So if you're looking at this thing going, oh yeah, I like that kitchen, everybody else is doing the same thing, and they're going to go over there and put an offer in. So you got to be prepared, right away. You got to come out swinging. If you like something, you're going to have to pay for it, is really what we say to them at the end of the day. We know you don't want to overpay, but you know what happens with the appraisal process is that as soon as your house closes, let's say you paid $5, $10 grand, $20 grand over a list price. As soon as you do that, you've now become the new pace setter for the next home that comes up on the market for sale. And that's going to be the new property. So it kind of yes, it's high now, but it won't be high for long. It'll just kind of keep going that direction for the time being. So just trying to get them step back a little bit, overall. And once they kind of see that and realize it, and they'll either make it up or we're going to have to renegotiate. We've had some renegotiation success as well. Meeting in the middle. Maybe it appraised 10 grand less. We came up 5, they come down 5, and we'll close it from there.
Dan, I love what you're saying, man. And I'm going to push the envelope here, because this is, when you're moderating, it's like when you got the mic, hey, let's just say it. Like there's a lot of discussion in forums where real estate agents are upset about the idea of their clients overpaying. And then on top of that, these, a lot of buyers will be like, I don't want to overpay. You touched on it, but I want Matt to finish it from his perspective. Matt, if a buyer tells you, I don't want to overpay, how do you handle?
I think a lot of it comes into the education process for the buyer. The difference between an appraised value, which is not necessarily market value, it's the value based on comparable sales for a lender's purposes. I mean, the market value is what somebody's willing to pay for it. An appraisal is only as good as the comparable sales that are around it. So when we're dealing with a buyer, we need to know what the end goal of this house is. If this is going to be you're going to be here the next 10 years, 15 years, does it matter if you pay another 5 or 10 grand more? Probably not. But if this is a 2-year house and you've got to, and you're going to get a job transfer in 2 years and you're only going to be there, then you got to be careful with what you're paying on this, because I don't want you to call me in 2 years and tell me that, you want to sell this for 50 grand more than you just paid for it.
So
Maybe
good.
the market has shifted. So I think you got to know what the end goal with the house is, and you can know how much, you know how you're able to negotiate this thing. And I think educating the buyers on the differences and preparing them for a potential low appraisal gives you more flexibility and more options, because they know that might be one of the things that they're going to need to deal with during the process, as opposed to just putting them under contract and now it appraises for 10 grand less or 20 grand less, and they think that you just had them overpay for a house. So I think they need to understand that process.
That is so good, man. I mean, you all have mentioned this before, from Sonia to Dan and Nat. Like, you've all mentioned this buyer education, and I can see there's a ton of people here in this room. I cannot affirm more what these awesome panelists are saying right now. And just from our experience as well in Connecticut, the buyer education process is so stinking important. It is your way to get a deal from start to finish, and for the buyer and the seller to have an amazing experience. If you're not giving them that education, it's a surefire way for things to fall apart. I don't want to overpay. Why aren't the sellers doing more items? There's some things that are wrong with the property. They need to do that. It's all about misset expectations. So I cannot, agree more with these awesome panelists up here. And I think that to the detriment of real estate agents, as there's so many new ones in the business right now, if you're not getting that education and you can't own it because you don't know what to say, then that's on you right now, right? Like, go get in a part of some of the training programs, reach out to some of these icons that are here. That's what we're here for, is to help you guys to get some understanding around what the scripts need to be, and not just scripting, but just, the way that you navigate certain situations that are different than they were a year ago or 2 years ago. So I got more questions about the overpaying part. Sonia, what are you seeing for your buyers that are saying, I don't want to overpay? And then we're going to answer some questions from the audience.
Well, I basically do go and preview the property if I'm not there for the open house or a private showing. I do go preview the property and give my opinion of value based on the comps that have sold or are under agreement quickly, and just gauging about what they're going over asking, looking at the town and seeing statistically how high they're going, or try to reach out to the agent. So I will definitely let my clients know if I feel like they're overpaying. If it's a property that needs sweat equity, I think, they're in a great position. Typically, the houses that are all done are commanding a much higher price than one that needs work. But we definitely have a huge market of fixer-uppers, or more so dated properties, than probably most other areas in the country, because people don't leave their homes in this area. So when they do, they need a lot of work. So I'm honest to a fault with my clients, and I think that has actually helped me in my career. And if they're willing to overpay and they're going to be in it for, like I think it was Dan said, for more than 2 years, or actually Matt might have said, they're probably going to get their money back anyway.
Okay, that's super important. I would agree with you as well. And just like Dan and Matt have both affirmed, you have to understand the buyer's objective long term. Am I planning on staying here a year or so, or whatever it is? And then what you can do is you can also show them our MLS gives us the ability to look back and see the trends. And if you can see that you're increasing by 2% a year, 5% a year, or whatever it is, you may not be able to extrapolate and say, I've got a crystal ball and it's going to continue for X amount of years. But what you could say is, based upon historical data, looking in the rear view mirror, this is, we could say that you'd probably be able to break even within a year, 2 years, or whatever, right? So that's a great way to look at it. Okay, let's talk. Someone in the audience, Sam from Michigan, asks, how do you handle appraisals when there are no good comps? Okay, this is a great question. Okay, so as an appraiser, I want to jump in on that so badly, but we're here for these amazing panelists. Matt, why don't you take this one, and we'll kind of work over to Dan and then Sonia there. What do you do if there's no good comps?
Well, I think, and you could probably speak to this better than anybody having an appraisal company, but I think, you start with your direct neighborhood, and then you have to increase the area and in the how far out you're moving to find comps. You're gonna have to you might have to look at different style homes to try to find similar square footage. I mean, there are going to be comps on that appraisal, so you've got to make your you've got to dissect the data as best you can to make an educated decision on what that property could potentially appraise for on what's available. I mean, if there are no, we just had this scenario where we had a split level home and there were no other split levels in that neighborhood. And so what do? You've got to start looking at ranch homes, and you've got to start looking at maybe Cape Cods and trying to make an educated decision on how to properly adjust the comps that are out there, because you can't create them. So you've got to use what's there and make your best educated guess on where that's going to potentially come in. But it does make it more difficult in a market like this.
That's absolutely right. And Matt, I'm gonna take what you said, and we're gonna ask Dan. Dan, what if what Sam is asking for Michigan? What if he's asking? What if there's no good comps and I'm the agent and I have to talk to my buyer and I'm having a hard time finding out what this thing is worth? Can you answer it from the buyer's perspective?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Oh, sorry, on my end it says my device isn't hooked up. So yeah, going. I think. Can you repeat that question one more time? I was having a little difficulty there. Sorry.
Yeah, not a problem at all. So let's say, Sam's question from Michigan is, how do you handle appraisals when there's no good comps, right?
Gotcha.
So that's on. Matt answered it from the appraiser's perspective. Look, if
Sure.
I don't have anything, I just have to expand it, right? I just have to keep expanding
Absolutely.
until I find something that I can do. What if you're on the buyer agent side? And your guy says, hey, it's a raised ranch. Like, show me what I've got here, and you don't have anything. What do you do?
Tough. I'm not going to lie. It really comes down to it's kind of out of your hands, and I'm going to lean on the idea. I mean, I'm fairly good at what it is that what do you do, and Matt said it exactly right. You're going to expand that search. I'm going to go up and down a certain amount of years of build and style of home and kind of keep branching it out. But ultimately, no matter what way you look at it, is that it's going to have to get an appraisal. No matter what buyer comes in, is going to have to get one, and that appraiser is going to have to find something at the end of the day. I don't know if the guidelines are changing across state lines, but we just do the best that we can, with what we see there, and from what our many years in experience, and just from listing homes and seeing appraisal reports as well on the buyer side coming through, and just kind of analyzing it as well, and just trying to get as close as we can, to it at that point in time. That's definitely a tough question at the end of the day, but there's no doubt that we kind of have that same conversation, as we're just going to have to approach it and have an open conversation with the seller. What if it comes in lower? Like, hey, we're going to give you what you want, kind of a talk. But if it comes in lower, is your seller going to be accepting of that? Because obviously, as we all know, it's not up to you or I. It's the lender that's ordering this appraiser on behalf of the buyer. If it comes in less, we're fully on board. I mean, we're not going to pay $50,000 over list price, over appraised value. None of us can have substantiated comps, but I think that's usually the approach that we kind of take into it. And my market's a little different. We don't quite have that problem. We've got enough home sales, especially right now, in comps. The only time I've ever had an issue, we had a log home, and a log home you got to compare to log homes. It's a tough one to do. So we don't have very many of them here. So that was a tough one.
Those do become tough. Those unique or niche properties definitely are challenging for appraisers. But I think it was Matt. He just mentioned, like, you're gonna have to put something on the paper if you're the appraiser. And there's different ways to appraise real estate. Like, obviously, the ideal is a comp that is exactly the same as the subject, and it's next door, and it sold yesterday. And you just have to realize that if that was the ideal, and the other end of the spectrum is there's nothing that's sold in the town in the last 3 years, it's probably somewhere in between. And if it's somewhere in between, you got to put something on the paper in order to illustrate and just make adjustments. And the biggest thing is that the appraiser has to provide reasoning, a narrative as to why. And if you're an agent, you really should be able to do the same for your reasoning as to why, and to help your buyer feel comfortable about the decision that you're making. Okay, we've got about 15 minutes left, maybe about 5 minutes apiece. I want to talk about the future of what's happening in real estate in terms of the amount of sales, current absorption rates that are happening, market supply, prices, all of that. what do you see as happening within the next 6 months? And if you don't mind, just kind of refer to, maybe things that are happening that you've heard in the news, prices of materials, whatever that is. Give us your projections, and don't worry, this is recorded and it'll be on YouTube, and we'll share this with everyone in 6 months when we see if you're right or not. But let me know what you think is going to happen in the next 6 months as to the market. Sonia, why don't you start us out in your market at least? What do you think is going to happen in Massachusetts, in the Ipswich area over 6 months? And then we'll go to Dan and then Matt.
I honestly feel that our market is going to somewhat stabilize. I feel like already we are starting to see just a slowing. There's more inventory, but fewer buyers are out there. Our summer is very short. We have about 2 months, and I think buyers are just fed up with being rejected on offers. So they're taking a little breather through the summer. I think it'll pick back up in the fall, as it historically does every year, right after Labor Day up until Halloween. And, unless something catastrophic happens in the world, I think the market will just go the way it's going, which is in a more stable run from here on out.
Okay, so you believe that in Massachusetts, in your area, the market's gonna stabilize, or it's gonna keep going like with an increasing, or is it increasing where you are?
It's been out of control, like totally out of control. Our area increased by 22%, I think, in 1 year. So
Okay.
yeah, it's been crazy, and it may continue. I'm in a coastal town, so through COVID, we were discovered, and so people were flooding to this location and along the seacoast, all the way up into Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont for second home.
Okay, and so do you believe are sales stabilizing where you're at, or are they still increasing more than the month before, more than the month before? How is that working out right now? Sonia, you still there? Oop. May have lost Sonia there. Okay, so Dan, talk to me about your market in terms of, again, just to repeat, absorption rates, the number of sales, days on market, prices, all of those. Where do you see this going in the next 6 months in Florida, in your area?
Talked about earlier, we got about 10 months of summer. We don't really have a slowdown in our market ever, to be honest with you. The only time we ever see a slowdown is around Thanksgiving and again at Christmas, and then it picks up like full swing going back January once again. Our biggest thing right now, we don't have any indicator that it's going to slow down in any capacity, to be honest with you, at this time. I mean, there's just so much that's happening here locally, from companies that are coming into the area, the attractions opening back up, and just everybody's just flocking to the area much faster than we can even handle. My biggest indicator that I tell everybody, my background, I've been in real estate some 14 years, and because I did site development and construction, we saw the economic downturn happen on the last go around. And what that means is I worked with the builders directly, and we were the first people. I cleared the land in order to build the homes. When they came to us and said, "Hey, we're not building anymore," and this was 2007, by the way, we're not building anymore. And I'm like, wait, this month? They're like, no, till 2010. We laughed and couldn't believe it. And ultimately they were right. And it got way worse than that. So my thing is the builders right now, they're offering less and less commissions to realtors here locally, and they can't keep up with the supply overall. They've got their feelers across the country. They spend millions of dollars in analytics in all the other states to see slowdowns that are happening, and then they'll pull back. Until they start to see those overall as an indicator, then that's be my indicator that hey, something's happening. They see something happening way before we do, as on the purchasing side. But 6 months, we're going to be cranking them out still. It's going to be, obviously I don't have a crystal ball, but like you said, but it is we'd have to have a lot of homes hit the market all at once in order to see something. It'd have to almost be catastrophic, like Sonia said. It'd be something major that we can't foresee happening.
Okay, and if you don't mind me asking, just in regards to Florida, since you guys saw a ton of this, about a decade or so ago, in September, we're likely to see some foreclosures start to come out. Any concerns of any of your colleagues or co-brokes or anyone talked about any concerns on how that may affect the market?
No, right, really, to be honest with you, the foreclosing process, I've specialize in those as well, and we've done a million of them back in the day when the market was, you'd have 100 foreclosures to go through. Banks are ultimately, they're going to want to avoid the foreclosure process. On average, they probably spend some 50 grand to fully foreclose on a home. They're going to want that seller to short sale. And why would they short sale if they've got equity in the property? So, I mean, they're going to come around. There's going to be something out there. I know there's been some that have been in the books, and I've always heard this for many, many years. People have always talked about this flood of foreclosures that are coming, and yet here it is, some decade later, it still hasn't happened. But it's, I don't know. It'll pop out, but then we got, we're a huge flipping market here, just as easy. Everybody and their brother has got a show on TV on any channel you can watch now about flipping. Everybody's gotten into that whole idea. I do it myself. It's just as they come across, and they're good ones. So if there's a foreclosure and it's a good one, and you can get a good price on it, then they'll do it. But the foreclosures, I just don't see there being enough to offset really any major number.
Okay. I mean, that's super helpful to know. I mean, it's always good, especially when the flow of traffic, at least, I see way less coming from Florida to Connecticut. I see a lot more going from Connecticut to Florida. So that's good to know. Matt, how about you for your market? Just again, repeating absorption rates, numbers of sales, days on market, and prices.
Yeah. And I agree with Dan. I mean, I was in the South Florida real estate market when it crashed the last time, and I don't think these banks are going to let that happen again, especially when a lot of people that are late are in some type of forbearance due to what happened with the pandemic. They're gonna work a lot of those scenarios. They have equity, and they're going to work those scenarios out with those borrowers where the last time it was just such a flood of foreclosures that it just flooded the market. Now, even if we do have foreclosures in our particular market, I mean, we're 1 month worth of inventory, and appreciating that unseen levels for our market. Even if we do get an influx of foreclosures, a 6 to 7 month market is a normal market. So we have a lot of room to grow before we would even start turning back down the road on the other side. Now, that being said, I'm a buyer in this market. What concerns would I have buying in this market? I would be concerned buying luxury new construction right now. I think you're in the absolute peak price, and you've got maybe a 7 to 12 month turn time. I would be concerned about like a condo downtown or Pittsburgh market where they're not moving as quickly right now, because a lot of people working from home. So I'm looking at the when the South Florida market moved, it was the speculative investors for the condo market, luxury market. Those are the ones that tend to turn. And so those would be the ones that I'd be a little bit weary of, or I'd at least be watching a lot more closely if I'm buying a market like this.
Very interesting, man. Very interesting. We can see it in our market. I think for us, we're starting to see sales stabilize. We're starting to see inventory start to come back, and as supply returns, and if it's increasing beyond demand, we can see that there's a little bit of stabilization, at least here in Connecticut. Guys, we got about 6 minutes here. I don't see a ton of questions from the audience.
David, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
I'm on mobile. I'm not part of the panel or anything like that, but I am an agent here in California. I'd like to kind of give a little insight if I could.
All right, bud, go for it. You got 2 minutes, and then I got a question for these guys.
Cool. I was a builder 25 years before I got into real estate. I designed and built custom homes in Southern California. I feel like I think a lot of people aren't going to expect what's going to come, to be honest with you. And I don't know about where you guys are at, but I remember when the crash happened before. I was a builder in San Diego. I don't think anybody saw it coming, and I lost millions of dollars in projects literally in a month's period. And my refi business, for my mortgage business, I lost 95% of my business literally within a week. And what I'm seeing right now is 10 cities everywhere out here in California. And I'm not sure if that's what it's like there, but there's no inventory on the market here, and there's buyer fatigue. And I call literally probably 6 hours a day for expireds and circle prospecting neighborhoods, like all over my 3 different counties around me. And nobody wants to put their house on the market because they're afraid of where they're going to go. And then I'm reaching out to people that are in forbearance. There's over 3 million people that are in forbearance, and we have 400,000 weekly jobless claims. I think probably we'll see some time housing crash next year. I wouldn't doubt it.
Cool perspective, dude. I appreciate you jumping up there. Icon panelists, you guys have earned your seat up on this stage. Thank you guys for joining us. We got 4 minutes left, so I want to make sure that we just get some final words out. Any encouragement that you guys would like to give to some new agents who might be joining us, who are in the audience today, or someone who's listening on YouTube a little bit later on? Sonia, I just want to thank you for joining us from Massachusetts. Do you have any encouraging words?
Thanks so much. I'm always glasses half full, so I will look for the positive in every situation and just hope that we aren't hit too terribly if we are. I don't see what's going on in California here in the Northeast, and I'm saddened to hear that, but I don't doubt there are parts of the world that are suffering right now from COVID.
Dan, talk to me, man. Any encouraging words for some new agents who have joined EXP or are just joining the business as a whole, man, that you'd love to give? You've earned your seat up here today. So anything that you'd like to share with them before we head out?
Absolutely. Number one thing is get plugged in. Do these conversations, do the classes. I teach a lot here within Florida. I was on a panel. I taught a class yesterday on scripts. Anything that you're not good at or want to know more of, I tell all of our agents to treat it like a buffet. You go to a buffet, you can't eat everything in there, but you can only grab 1 or 2 things here and there. You don't have to do them all, but just grab something and then implement it at that point in time. But definitely getting plugged in. When we came to EXP, our business almost quadrupled in our first year of joining EXP. And my biggest thing was I even have it right here next to me right now. It's a little EXP book I got from one of the shareholder summits some 2.5 years ago, and here in Central Florida. And I've been carrying it around ever since. And I write down notes. Write that stuff down. Don't be doing screenshots and recording it and all that. Write that stuff down. Make those notes so that when you're later on at a soccer game or something that's boring and you've got your book out, run through those notes and remember and put them to use. Just don't just sit here and listen. Take that information and put it out there to work.
That's right, man. Like, the dude who takes action on things is the one who actually succeeds, right? Because you can think about it all day long, but the only one who's getting somewhere is the one who does it. So nice word. Thank you for that, Matt. Any encouraging words to some of our new guys, new to EXP, new to the business?
Yeah, I think especially if you're working buyers right now, it's a tough market, and you're in one of the toughest markets there that we've had when you're working on the buyers business. So stay at it, stay consistent with your activities, and when this thing starts to turn, you see huge success. And I think it can get discouraging at times, but you just got to stay the course. As the market continues to shift, all that hard work is going to pay off, and you're going to have fun. But right now it's tough, but you just got to keep at it.
I want to add to that too. Yeah, we talked about a lot about obviously with the buyers. Just tell everybody to be patient. I think Matt said it exactly right. That's one thing we didn't really hit on. We just tell them just keep submitting those offers. I know it's tedious and gets tiring, but keep them patient. Remind them, this will work out. There'll be the right one will come up, but just have those buyers be patient and move forward. There'll be more inventory.
Sorry, I misunderstood the question, but in my opinion, I think as a new agent, one of the best suggestions is to get out there, go to open houses, broker open houses, learn the inventory, look at those properties, see what those properties sell for. And when you're out and about, and if you're not, get out and about, go to restaurants, coffee shops, be out downtown, volunteer, meet people, talk to people, and people will ask you if they know you're in real estate, if you know anything about a certain house. If you're out there previewing these properties, you'll know, and you'll become their expert, the local expert.
Well, awesome. I'd just love to give a hand to these awesome panelists. You guys earned your seat up here, obviously due to your production, and not only that, but I can tell your integrity and the amount of education that you've had for yourselves. I know a bunch of the people here in the audience are pumped. You've done so well. So Sonia Johnson from Massachusetts, thank you. Dan Teston from Florida, and Matt Durbin from Pennsylvania. Thank you guys so much. We're going to end our session here for the next one. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for moderating, David.
You guys were great. Thank you for that.